Cool, Chris. I need to get a couple other quotes.
Gotcha. Okay, so walk me through. I guess I'm hearing you get other quotes, but walk me through. I guess what are you hoping to hear from other people that I wasn't able to talk to you about today?
I mean, everything you said sounds good. I just need to make sure I'm comparing apples to apples.
Gotcha. That's awesome. That's awesome. And for right now, for you, do you feel like if I came in and I was like $5,000 above maybe another quote you got, would that be a total deal breaker for you by any chance?
No, but I would need to know, where's that $5,000 going?
Right now, you're talking about spending like $13,000 or even more than that. And I know that I wouldn't feel comfortable spending $13,000 with anybody that I didn't trust. So for you, I guess, what do I need to do for you to trust me?
I mean, you're saying all the right things. I think what you showed me is what I'm looking for. It's really just looking at what else is out there.
I guess real quick, can I share with you what I always would tell anybody to ask if anytime they're ever getting other quotes from other people?
Yeah, please.
All right, love that. All right, so the first thing I would always ask any contractor is, what is their change order policy? Number two, I would always ask them, what's their warranty? And then number three is I would always make sure that they're always, bonded, licensed, and insured. Make sure they're actually asked those questions because you want to make sure that you're, and do you understand why I'm asking you, especially for that last part about being insured?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get burned if something happens. I don't want to be the one liable for that. So
100%. You don't want to be paying for someone or something that goes wrong on the actual project yourself. When are you kind of hoping to talk to those other contractors by?
I have 2 scheduled calls right after this.
Okay, no problem. Is it okay if I give you a call, let's say maybe at the end of today and maybe even also tomorrow just to make sure we're on the same page? Because if it makes sense for us to go ahead and put you on the calendar, we want to do that for you as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Would that be too much of a burden for me to kind of do that for you?
No, I mean, if I want this done by July 4th, I get it. I need to make a decision soon.
We on?
Are we on? Nice. Well, how are you guys doing today? Obviously, I'm Chris Livingston, and that is
Logan Shinholzer. What's up, guys?
How you guys doing? So I don't have a computer in front of me right now, but what I'd love for you guys to do right now, if you guys are coming in live, go ahead and put hashtag live into the chat. And if you guys coming in a replay, watching this on a replay, go ahead and put hashtag replay in the chat. How you doing today, man?
I'm good, Chris. Thanks for asking.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
All right, so let's get into it, man. So I know we wanted to have like a good conversation about not only being recession proof, but kind of like taking care of your business for the long term. So I guess what prompted in your mind this conversation?
Well, right now there's just, I think like just to address the elephant in the room. I don't think anybody enjoys talking about this stuff, but there's just been some fears and some talks and of like what's going on economy wise. This kind of felt like how it did in like April of 2020 all over again. So instead of just kind of shying away from it and going, well, we don't really know what's going on, like let's just pretend it doesn't happen, like let's just address it. Because one of the things that I remember what it was like with when COVID first happened, and I still remember it was like March 15th when like they shut the NBA down and they said, hey, we're not, and it just felt like okay, this is like weird, but it didn't feel like you went to bed one night and everything was good, and then you woke up the next day and like the whole world is shut down. And that's kind of what happens where if God forbid this is a recession, it's like most of the time that you're in it, like, and I've been like reading a lot about it just to understand it, not like to get consumed by it, but a lot of it's like, yeah, like stock market wise, like with the price drop, it's like, yeah, if we are quote unquote in a recession, we're already 2/3 of the way down. So it's like, we're pretty close. So it's a lot of just a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense of, when you think something might happen, then you start to align with it.
So
and
you
then
have actions that align with that as well.
Yeah, it just keeps going and going and going. So what tonight was, talk about some of this stuff. I've talked to, my dad, at length about, especially when it happened in 2020, because that was technically, I think, like a 3-month recession. Just, what to do, but also going through with some of the higher end clients that do more volume and talking to them like, hey, how has it been? What have you done? What are the strategic moves? So I figured tonight we talk about that stuff. And a lot of the stuff that we're going to go through is not like, hey, you should go through this only during a down period. It's, hey, if you actually do this stuff, it will set you up for years on out.
I mean, I think it's the whole idea like being like recession proof. If you think about like just businesses in general, if a business has been here for a long period of time, especially if they're a well-known business, there's an idea that they're kind of not necessarily too big to fail, but they've set themselves up for success long-term and probably have a very profitable model so that they can actually stay, business afloat, all ups and downs.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things that what we've kind of realized with a lot of the clientele that we work with, the contractors that we work with that have done well during the recession, there was really beforehand, what they really did was they aligned themselves with people that were more quote unquote recession proof. Like we were just talking about this off camera, but the price of gas is way higher right now than it was year over year. I think in May, it went up 35% from May of last year compared to May of this year. Now, nobody enjoys paying more for gas, but you got to think about somebody whose family in this makes $200,000 a year. If they're going to fill up a tank of gas, let's say they drive a good amount once a week, that's probably an additional, if they have a 10, 15 gallon, let's call it a 10-gallon tank to make it easier, that's $2 each. That's $20 a time more times, let's just say 50 weeks out of the year. That's an additional $1,000 over the course of a year. How impactful is $1,000 off somebody who makes $200,000 a year?
Not the same impact that it has on somebody who makes a household income of $40,000 a year.
Right. It's completely different. So a lot of it was beforehand, they were aligned with those types of people. And I know my dad, during 07, 08, 09, because I was a senior or junior and senior in high school. You were senior in high school, freshman in college. We didn't really quite experience it. I mean, we didn't have businesses or anything like that, so it was different. But talking through it with him, I mean, he grew. Like his company each year got bigger and bigger and bigger, and a lot of it was the fact that that the first piece was he was already aligned with those types of people. He operated with the type of people that they're not that. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's not great and nobody enjoys it, but to them, it was simply more of maybe we're not gonna completely ball out, but we're still going to ball out. Life's going to go on, because a lot of those people that he aligned with are people that have financial literacy. They grew up knowing, and learning this stuff. And it was just kind of like a generational thing where they've been through recessions themselves. They understand it. But at the same time, they know that because the average recession lasts 11 months. They know that on the other side, it's going to be okay. They're going to be fine. They have enough saved up. They're going to be good. So they're still in control of everything, even though, the world around them is quote unquote burning down. They were fine.
Do you think that there's a separation or a certain tipping point when it goes from being a savings problem, hey, I need to save more money because of the situation, or just becoming a income problem? I just make more money to take care of the situation.
What do you say that again? I'm trying to understand it.
So, example, let's imagine right now I'm spending, in my life, let's say marketing. I'm spending $35-50 a month on marketing, right? And so that's what I'm spending on marketing with the company. Everything goes great. And then now I have this thought in my mind of the recession. At what point is it hey, I need to save more money, and say I need to save this money from doing this, versus no, it's an income problem. I need to make more money on that. Because and I don't want to get political at all, but one of the things that I've been reading about pretty recently is gas prices. The cost of gas per barrel, oil per barrel, is pretty relatively the same. The difference that's changed is the profitability that that the companies are making, which is
they're crushing it right now.
Yeah, they're making a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
So the thing is this, it's and it comes from the idea of different resources are maybe potentially not going to be there, but right now it's okay. So I hear so many people talk about the idea I can't charge this, or 50% gross profit margin. I talked to a guy today, good guy, but it was crazy in his mind to think that people doing over $100,000 projects are doing it 50% or more. And so, but at what point does it, click in the person's mind, or is it actually a tipping point when it goes from, hey, I don't need to be looking to how I can save this $35-50 a month. I need to be thinking to myself how I can make more money to make this make sense.
I think there's a combination. So, as a business owner myself, I'm looking at, okay, what are the things which should happen anyway? But when when we're all rolling and life is good, like those extra expenses, it is what it is. But for me and that CGN, it's not what can I save. It is like, because it always should be like, hey, like where are we like bloated? Like what are the things that we don't really need per se? Like, do we really need to do this, and this? Maybe not. But the thing that I'm focusing on here, and this is what my dad did, this is what like the clients that we have that, through, not just 2020, but 08, 2001, stuff like that, what they've done is they have not only maintained, but they doubled down on the marketing side of things, marketing sales during that time, and they found other things that they could cut instead. So here, I'm like, let's say at CGN, I'm looking at, okay, if we had to cut, if we had to do these things, where would that come from? Would that come from marketing and sales? Hell no. Because what if people drop off? Because they're doing they're making an emotional decision. Hey, I'm gonna back out. It's much easier. I will say, as a business owner, it is much easier to say, well, I'm gonna cut marketing, or I'm gonna cut sales, or I'm gonna cut these other quote unquote partnerships before I have to let somebody go. Because I don't enjoy firing anybody or letting somebody go. It sucks. 100% of the time that I've had to do it, it's not fun. So it's much easier to just go, screw it, I'm going to cut that stuff, because I don't have to look Google in the face every day. I don't have to tell Google, hey, we're breaking up. I can simply just stop. So it's easier, but I realize that if I take that approach, then what is going to happen is we're going to slowly dwindle away. So I can either hurt one person or I could hurt 14 people. So that's the mentality that I have, and that's, talking to our clients, that's essentially what they've had to do, is they realized, hey, look, especially the ones that have been in business for a while and they've been through a couple different downturns and stuff like that, they recognize that, like, on the other side of this, like, everything will be okay. But the biggest thing that they did not want to cut out is the ability to continue to build their brand, because that is like what we're doing here is we're now going, okay, if something happens, what do we do? Well, we literally been talking for the past 2 weeks about like just upping to no end our content.
Like 50xing it.
Yeah, like what are the things that we know, like, we're going to be fine. We will be fine. It sounds shitty to say, if God forbid we lose half our revenue and we got to cut out a couple people here, like, the brand is going to continue. Sales and marketing will continue. So if I got to get back in and do certain things, like, it is what it is. Again, CGN employees, if you're watching this, I'm not saying that's going to happen. But what I am saying is I'm looking at this stuff, but the thing that I'm not going to, like, diminish is sales and marketing, because I know on the other side of this, I'm going to look back and go, oh, damn it, why did I stop that? Like, I want to be smart about it, and I want to take all the money that I have and put it into continuously building brands, building partnerships, building things that are going to keep returning, where, let's say it doesn't return this very second. Let's say we put the money into CGN SEO. Well, maybe it does slow down and there's a tough few weeks where we don't see the direct ROI of it. But I know if we keep putting money into us, it will work. So on the other side of this, everybody who stopped, who put their growth on hiatus, well, now they're slowly dwindling away while we maintain status quo. And then on the other side of it, all the shit that we've been doing is going to kick off even more.
It's just simple. It's just like buy the dip, right? So,
Yes.
So when everybody else is taking away because there is a scarcity mindset of opportunity, what that really does is that opens up a huge floodgate, because like you talked about, alluded to earlier, people that the high-end clients, so be very, very straightforward, we are a best fit for people who are looking to attract high-end clients. We're not the best fit for people who are looking to attract people who don't align with that idea of high-end clients. And because of that, now recognizing that high-end clients are not going to feel, they're not buying a kitchen with their last dollar. They're not getting their whole home remodeled or get an ADU in their house with their last dollar. This is discretionary income that they're going to be okay with. So if you now are looking like you have to get in front of those people, and so it makes even more sense for you to be spending time, energy, effort, money, bandwidth to make sure that we're getting in front of those people so that you are not dying down. And if you take this approach of, okay, gotcha, well, I'm scared now Well, first of all, it's the wrong profession to be in as an entrepreneur. But if I'm scared now, what happens is I'm now putting myself and the business at risk, because when other people out there who are not so scared, maybe not so risk adverse, are going to be actually putting money and energy and buying the dip. And so now they're out there. They're being seen. They're being found. They're being located by people who are high end. They built one project. That one project has other friends and family that learn about it who are in a similar situation. They refer it out to somebody else, and they get to get the snowball effect that is which is the value of right now. I looked at, I think last night, I saw that Bitcoin's at $19,000. I remember maybe about a month and a half ago, it was probably north of 50, maybe close to $60,000. Well, the thing is this, if you believe in Bitcoin, it's up to you, but if you believe in Bitcoin, it makes sense for you to buy it now at the dip and not say, okay, gotcha. Well, because people right now who have those resources, the people who are making the money, what happens is they just have the capital at opportune times like now. So I don't know. I don't know why we don't think of it in that same light.
Yeah, so my wife, I've never introduced her like that in this, but my wife and I got married 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. She works in investment banking. So her whole job right now is what it was before, or what it is normally, is companies who are not quite large enough to go public, and they're not quite large enough to have like a big bank back, like no problem. Like a company like the size of like J. Crew per se is like, they probably have $100 million in revenue, like, I don't know, a few thousand employees, stuff like that. They come to her side of the bank because it's investment banking, and they raise debt. Essentially, they take out a loan because they say, hey, either we want to buy a new company or we want it for research and development purposes, things like that. So what she's been doing for the past 2 years has been like crazy, because it was so cheap to borrow money that usually instead of taking out a loan and paying, I don't know, 7-8% or whatever it is, they could now do it for 3%. So they're like, screw it.
It's cash.
Yeah, hell yeah, this is free money, let's do it. So she's just been like, I mean, our relationship over the past 2 years, we've gone through a lot of stuff just because it's been, she has conference calls at 10 p.m. on Saturday night, and then wakes up the next day and has another conference call at 7 a.m. on Sunday. And I'm like, this is miserable. Like, for as much as it sucks for her, like I'm also trying to like relax at the end of like a weekend, and she's on a conference call and it sucks. Well, so she's in this world and she sees it all, and we're talking about this, and her comment to me when I was like, yeah, like, she's like, what do you think is going to happen with your clients? I was like, I think we'll be good. And she was like, well, I hope that their clients are wealthy. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, like stuff like this, it doesn't really impact those people. Like, they're fine. They're still going to buy.
Yep.
Like that's really what it is. And a lot of it is like, once the hoopla kind of dies down, we're good. Like, we'll be all right. So,
well, I mean, that makes it even more important that you have to be looking for high-end people then. Because that's what makes you recession-proof, is the fact that you are attracting people that the recession does not affect.
And like for us, honestly, selfishly, like that's been the goal since day one. Because it's like, hey, look, if we can make you recession-proof, guess who's also going to be recession-proof?
Yeah.
We are. It trickles up, baby. Like, let's go. Like, you think we want you to get shitty people? Hell no, because we want you to win, because when you win, we win, because it's like the hand that feeds you. So
it's like we're so adamant about the idea of you charging 55% gross profit margin, because what that now does is that allows for you to let people like us continue to help you go to the next level.
Yeah, one of the things. So I was on Reaver's podcast today. We were just talking, and he was like, so what is your like methodology? Like tell the listeners, like, what is CGN's methodology? And I was like, straight up, like, your brand, like the strength of your brand is directly related to your pricing power, which, long story short, means the stronger the brand is, the more that you could charge whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
Because like I don't think like.
That's why you can charge $6 for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, like you can do that. You can charge, like, iPhone is straightforward, but a lot of it's just straight branding. So, going into whatever we may or may not go into, I mean, that's why we're doing this stuff. This all impacts CGN's brand. Like, doing this, educating the clientele, being out there, being seen, jumping in when you got to jump in. Like, that's all part of it. And I know that, like, for the all that are watching out there right now, like, sun's still going to shine tomorrow. We're still going to be good. we're fine, but like we're continuing to push the brand forward.
I imagine that all entrepreneurs want to get away from a scarcity mindset and have an abundance mindset. How do you? I mean, I think it's really easy to say, but how do you make sure you ground yourself on always having that abundance mindset, or even times that you maybe have like found yourself slipping maybe to scarcity, but it's really easy to say that, but how are you staying there?
To that point, can you also explain and go into like the actual why behind doubling down on sales and marketing?
Yeah. So to go first on that scarcity versus abundance mindset, I do this every year. I'm re-listening to How to Win Friends and Influence People. I do it every year because every year that I listen to it, I'm in a different place. The company's in a different place, and I have to like get re-grounded for it. And one of the things they talk about, which I think I love it, and it's like a good reminder, is there's two things that moves people in life according to this: the potential desire for sex and the need to feel important. So we won't talk about the sex one, but the need to feel important. I think what happens during times like this is there's a lot of I told you so people, where it's, I told you this was going to happen. I've been saving up for this for like 3 years now, stuff like that. But it's like that instant hit of like importance. I realistically think that this is just like, you just need time in the pocket for abundance mindset. I can't really speak to it because I grew up with a household that was very abundance-esque. There was stuff that had to happen. Like, I remember, I'm like hearing about it now. It's interesting to hear, like, I'm like 9 years old. I have no idea what's going on in 2001 when the market crashed. Like, no idea about that. But I hear the stories now of like, my dad said like, yep, he was over levered. Essentially, like, he borrowed a bunch of money. So like, because the stock market was a .com situation, he just grows and grows and grows, but it's all on like a loan. Well, the banks can do a margin call, which essentially says they can call you back up and go, hey, we don't really know what's going on, so we want you to pay back those loans. Well, if you don't have the money because everything's on a loan, you're in trouble. So it's interesting to kind of hear him go back there, but I didn't know that growing up, and everything now is all about like abundance mindset, like you'll be good. So honestly, it like the one thing I will say is I think if you grew up with not much and you have that scarcity mindset, like, because that was the environment that you were in, I think it's just going to take time and take a lot of energy and effort to, be around people that have that to slowly change you. It's like if you grew up in a family that was just everybody was morbidly obese, like everybody there rocked 25% and up body fat. Eventually, like you're either going to get so sick of it that you're going to flip, or over time, you're going to, if you continuously hang out with the right people, you will lose the weight. And then with your kids, you're able to say, hey, look, like we're not going to be that family. We're going to be in shape. And then your kids now have the opportunity where they grew up not knowing what it's like to be morbidly obese because they've always been around fit people. So I had that. My dad was the one that grew up in the scarcity mindset that had, my grandfather was the, hey, the stock market's rigged. Unless you're in the game, you're going to get screwed, so don't even play it. Well, my dad was the only one out of his family that, like, really quote, like my aunt's done, like there's a couple of people in the family done pretty well, like financially and stuff like that. But his whole thing was when he was a kid, he went and hung out at the country club because he was a diver, he's a springboard diver. So when all of my aunts and uncles, his 7 siblings, were hanging out with the, the other lower class kids in the neighborhood, my dad got to go dive at the country club with all the country club kids. So he grew up with a different mindset. He got to see one side of it, but he also got to see the other side of it. And he always tells a story. It's funny where he like got in the car with somebody and he's like, what's that smell? And they're like, well, what do you mean, what's that smell? He's like, what's that smell? It was the smell of leather in a car. And he had never smelled what that was like. But because of that, he's little by little gotten more and more into the abundance mindset. And because of that, myself and my siblings are like that.
I think it's so important. Like, I mean, so for me, in my mind, like my dad grew up with pretty little, but the thing was, it was in his mind that he was always playing with house money because he had kind of like made it outside of his area, his neighborhood, and like, so it was like he was playing with house money. So my dad was always very big on us about like doing things and being okay with failure. Like I grew up, I was, got good grades, but got out in trouble all the time in school, all that kind of stuff. My dad, it felt as if he didn't care. And not saying he didn't care in the sense about caring about us, but it was just like, look, I'm okay with you failing. He would ask me sometimes like, what'd you do to fail today? Like, and he was okay with that. And I think that like, I talked to you about it beforehand, but like I don't have like this like fear of failure situation. I don't have like this attachment of like I can't fail. I'm like, oh, failure is just a stepping stone to the next part of success.
I think it's different. So I think for you, and I'll get to the doubling down thing, I think for you, it's not a fear of failure because it's not like I'm not actually afraid to fail. Like that's not actually what it is. Because if I was afraid to fail and that was like a legit concern,
You do everything you can not to fail.
yeah, like if I was afraid of flying, would I fly? No, right? But it's the embarrassment that is associated with failure. That is the fear. And for you,
I don't get embarrassed.
You don't get that embarrassed. Like I was telling him the other day, like Chris is very good at like he builds up the confidence of everybody around him. Like I'm a more confident person because of Chris. Because essentially your whole methodology or concept is, look, there's nobody better than anybody else. Like you just do it and everybody's on the same playing field, which is so right. So like when you look at people, you're not starstruck. You're not like, oh my God, this person's so rich. I can't talk to them. This person's so successful. You know, I can't do that. But in reality, like they always say the same, you know, everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time. And I get that. But like actually watching you do it and being around you, like I think everybody is a more confident person because of it, because you realize like at the end of the day, if you fail in business, like you really care about it, but like nobody else is like.
But you actually tried. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got there,
it's like the man in the arena side of things. So I think it's different because like the fear of failure is not really real. It's more the embarrassment associated with it, which is why, you know, it was hard for me to really post on social media at first because I'm like, whoa, I already failed at the whole Navy SEAL thing. Like I can't make this another failure. So maybe I'll just like hide behind my rock in this cave and build this business, and then all of a sudden I'm going to pop out with $1 million valuation or, you know, whatever it is, and everybody's going to be so impressed with me, so I'm going to hide. And then I realized that wasn't actually going to get me there. So kind of circling back to the need to double down on sales and marketing during all this, why? Why are we doing that? Well, let's say 50% of clients drop off. Well, to backfill that, I got to have 50% more clients. And how am I going to get 50% more clients?
Sales and marketing.
Sales and marketing. So it's straight math. Like if you are used to a certain lifestyle that you got to make $100,000 a year and instantaneously 50 grand gets cut out, if you want to maintain that lifestyle, what do you got to do?
Make 50 grand.
You got to make an extra 50 grand. So why not proactively get ahead of anything? Which, funny enough, we always have to have a situation like this.
Well, this is what happens. Like when people get this, and I don't say it on a high horse because that's not necessarily, I don't think that's accurate. But when people get so proud of the fact that they were able to build a business strictly off of word of mouth, it's like that straight up. There's a lot of validity and a lot of like greatness that comes to that. But what it does not do, I think it blindsides you when things like this happen, like because you don't have the ability to scale word of mouth. And especially if you were appealing to people who were not high end, the word of mouth that's happening is happening to people who are dealing with the exact same situation that your customers are dealing with. So they can't help you out in the future either. So it's one of those things where, you know, word of mouth, what it really is just a transfer of trust, right? So you start out the business, you get friends and family to help you out. They're the people who actually work with you first and foremost. Or you got some contacts from a previous situation. They already trust you. You know, you got a preferred vendor. They're helping you out in the situation that way. But you got to understand that the reasons why those people are referring you out, the reason why those people were able to work with you in the first place is because they trusted you. And you have to be able to transfer that trust online as well. Because if you're only gauging yourself right now, like if you think to yourself right now, we're only working off referrals.
Or let me like, so this is something I talked to Reber about this on the podcast today. So the medium of how you do it is going to change over time. Like maybe in 10 years, the way to get out there is the metaverse. You got to pop on your freaking goggles and go from there. But the concepts behind it, you know, for a referral, why? If I'm going to refer Chris out, that must mean, because I'm putting my name on the line. If I'm like, hey, you should hire Chris, there must be something about you that I'm willing to risk my name and my reputation for you. Now, that's not going to change because human behavior doesn't change all that much. The book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, it was written, I think, in the 30s, like in the Great Depression. He talks about the desire to have sex and to feel important. Well, it's 2022. Chris, Do you like to have sex and feel important?
Ditto.
Now, when Chris has sex, he's not that important in this situation, but
I have one child.
he nailed it that one time. But that's what it really comes down to is that, okay, they want to feel important and they want to hook up with other people. Now, whether that happens on Tinder, in a dating app, or that happened in the classifieds in like the 90s,
Or the bar, or
the speakeasies in
Yeah.
the 30s or the 20s and stuff like that. Like,
the arranged marriages. It doesn't matter what it is.
yeah, like that's really more what it came down to is like human desire doesn't really change. Yeah, I mean, so Andrew Pellick, who's legacy maker, crushing it, said recession of 2008, more than 50% of my potential clients dropped off. We did no marketing and just waited for people to call. Took a long time to get the leads flowing again. This is a conversation I had with our team at CGN. You weren't here last week when I did it, but you know, I'm like, hey guys, like let's address the elephant in the room. How's everyone feeling? And they were like, some people said good, some people said a little nervous. And I was like, all right, cool. Here's what we're gonna do. If entrepreneurship, if we knew, and this is something my dad brought up, and I thought it was fun. He said, if we knew that we were going to make it to the top of the mountain, this shit wouldn't be fun. Like, the risk involved is what it really comes down to. But if we're going to do it, and God forbid, we are going to go away, do I want to look back and go, well, what were those things that we could have done and should have done? Versus, like, screw it. Let's swing for the fences. Like, you know, it's like, I hate to use this as a reference, but I'm watching freaking Game of Thrones. Like, you know, I finished it the other week. If you are trying to watch it, I'm not going to, turn off now because it's a spoiler. But, like, they said, look, we don't know if we can win against them. And the dude said, yeah, I know. But don't you at least want to go down trying? And that was the whole idea was like, look, like, guys, at the end of this all, something could happen. Like, God forbid, the internet could just disappear. And then what do we do now to make this happen? We got to pivot, and maybe it doesn't work out. But do I want to, spend the next couple years thinking back? Because I did that with the Navy career. I think back, because I didn't make it through that. I think back to like, okay, what were the things that I could and should have done differently for me to have made it? Like, what was it that made it so that when I got into Hell Week, it didn't work? And I did a lot of reflection, and it was simply, I just did enough to check the boxes to say, look, I did it. I did the runs, I did the strength training, I did all that shit, and I don't know why I didn't make it. Well, I know because I just did it to check the box. It's like I put out that piece of content like you told me, and it's like, all right, well, do you believe in it? Because at the time, I thought I did, but now that I look back, I didn't. So I don't want to go through that again, so I'm like, screw it. Like, I know we'll be fine. I'm good to go on that, but if, God forbid, the internet goes away or I don't know, like something happens. But I want to go down swinging.
I believe in my ability to problem solve. Like I believe wholeheartedly in my ability to problem solve. I do not know what the future holds as far as what obstacle is going to happen next. But I think it comes down to like a belief in my ability to adapt. I'm thankful for a sound mind. I'm thankful for right now type of physical ability. I'm thankful for those things. I'm thankful for me being able to navigate the situation because no one knows what the future holds, but I think it's like, I don't know. I don't get worried because
well, you know why?
Why?
Because you have a skill. You have the skill of sales. You are good at sales. You know sales. So if I fired you right now, do you feel confident that you could go find a job, a sales job, and within a couple months be effective in that role and be making money again?
Yes. But in that same situation as this, I have not always had the skill of sales, but I've always had, I feel like, the ability to believe in me in the sense of I want to bet on me. And it's like, if I go to the next situation and now you got to learn marketing, you got to learn fulfillment. I got to learn how to freaking dig a hole for ponds. I'm going to believe in my ability to do that. And I think that it comes down to the belief that, and I go back to the idea of not worrying. It's because of I look at every single thing that's happened in my life, and I haven't had like a crazy hard life, but I've had different obstacles and stuff like that too. But I'm still freaking here, and I've still made it. Every single thing that you could have ever worried about, and this is anybody listen to this, every single thing that you could have ever worried about, you've gotten to this place. You've gotten past that into this place. Like, and there's still more worry to come. But you've gotten here. So it's just like, what does that do for me? I'm either going to win or I'm going to lose, but it's fine. I'm going to be able to continue to move forward. And I think that worry just slows people down. If it has the ability to motivate you, then maybe good on you. But I don't know. I don't have that ability. I'm not saying, because I'm not careless in certain things. Like right now, I got a family, right? Megan and Olivia, I got to make sure that they're taken care of 100%. So it's not like I'm not going to safeguard things. I'm not going to do things proactively so that they're taken care of. But at the same time is that sense of worry does not seem productive at all to me.
Well, it's like the anticipation of everything. That's really what it comes down to, is the anticipation. I mean, I was in a pretty dark spot in like December when everything kind of blew up here at CGN. And I was like fearful of a lot of things. Like it was like January, Greg, or maybe it was still December, but like Greg was just starting and I had to like hop on the phone with a bunch of clients and introduce them to him. And I had to leave because I was like literally like about to have a panic attack. And then I'm like reading this book, and one of the things they talked about, and it was a famous quote by Alfred Hitchcock, and it was, people are not afraid of the boom. It's the anticipation of the boom that gets them. And that's really what it is like in scary movies, because Alfred Hitchcock, famous, horror film guy, that was his whole thing think about it, it's the music that leads up to it. And the anticipation of, I don't know if it's going to happen, but when you see the thing jump out, if you knew it was going to jump out, would it scare you?
Not nearly as much.
No. So I think Reaper had a podcast on this like either yesterday or today that was like lean into the punch. And then once I started to do that, I not only was like, wow, this is actually not as bad as I thought it was, because for some reason, I thought this was going to be like a shit on Logan fest of like, oh, like you are the worst, like not just like, hey, what's been going on, but more of
personally,
like you're the worst thing ever. Like, and I was just like, wow, I can't do this. But then once I started doing it, I was like, okay, that's not happening at all. And then I was like, actually, this is kind of fun. Like I missed talking to all these people. So it actually worked out really well and it was fun again. So it was just the anticipation of it all was really like, and that's the same thing with right now. Like it's just the unknown of what's going to happen. Well, I can't control what's going to happen with Ukraine and Russia, but what I can do is I can control how many videos we're going to put out, how much we're going to be spending on our own SEO, how many partnerships I can like influence between now and whenever. So that's the whole approach of what I'm taking.
I don't know if it was Roosevelt, but I'm pretty sure it was Roosevelt said fear was the false evidence appearing real. That's all it is.
Say that one more time.
Roosevelt, I'm pretty sure it was Theodore Roosevelt said that fear is just false evidence, stands for false evidence appearing real. It's this idea of like that something's going to happen and it seems to be real, but it's not actually, but if it does happen, it's not going to affect you nearly as much as you have like this fear that it's actually going to affect you.
Yeah. So Brian said it takes a lot of humility to admit that sometimes you'll try stuff and give it an honest effort and it's just not for you. Happened to me at least a few times. Yeah. I mean, like you essentially like you just don't know. And I think one of the issues that I see a lot of people do, and we all fall victim to it. I fall victim to it where, and I've gotten out of this headspace where like, if you're afraid to like talk to a salesman because you don't want to like waste your time and things like that. But like, what if the salesman actually has something beneficial to you? And in the very least, I want to hear what's working or what's not working in the sales world. Like, I want to know, okay, if this person's crushing it, what are they doing? So I at least want to see, like, is there a sales tactic that they're doing? So like, I'm trying to find the silver linings of this stuff over and over and over. But a lot of it is just, if I'm too afraid to make the jump or I don't like at least take the initiative, like it's the anticipation of it that's way worse than it actually happens. Because all these like partnerships and all the things that I'm trying, like if it works, great. But if it doesn't work, like, do I think that they're going to look at me and be like, man, yeah, like let's go back in the conference room and like make fun of this Logan guy for like continuously reaching out to try to build something with us? Yeah. Like, oh, what a loser. He put in effort. Like, it's not that bad. And that's something that I've learned from you. So like, guys, if you're out there and you like want to get a boost of confidence, like hit up Chris, because what you'll realize is it's not that bad. Like I watched Chris in college, like time after time after time, just walk up to random people and just strike up a conversation about nothing. He goes in with no plans, but he realizes like, and I will say there's certain times where I'm like, God damn it. Like, come on, man, have something to follow up. But like, if you're going to start the sentence, know where you're going with it. But it's cool to watch you go through and not like be worried that like, oh, this first interaction that I have with them. I mean, everybody wants to make a good first impression, but like, if it's meant to be, you'll win them back over.
Yeah.
It's just like it might be a weird first 5 minutes of a conversation, but by minute 6, you're back in their good graces. You're good, and it wasn't that big of a deal anyway.
And I mean, even like, with Ryan or, one of our sales specialists and things like that too, like I tell them, like, there's nothing you can do to screw up the company. And I think that if you have that kind of like confidence and understanding that, hey, like you are operating off of borrowed time, house money, let's go out and get this thing. Like, let's make this thing happen. And I think sometimes what happens, like, right, okay, example. Many people, for the first time in their business, that are our customers, hit $1 million for the first time, with us. And then they get to the next point, which is awesome. And we help them grow to the next point, which is absolutely amazing. But I think what happens is, if you've been doing $300,000 for a couple years, maybe that's all you've seen, or maybe that's what you're doing right now, and you quickly jump, across that $1 million threshold, looking at $4 or $5 million, what happens is sometimes you've outkicked your coverage. You've outkicked your ability to lead. You've outkicked your ability to actually think about this business as of what it is right now. And when you do that, sometimes you regress back to kind of small-minded thinking. Hey, if this seems like a lot of money compared to what? Like it sometimes it baffles me when people are doing beyond their revenue goals. I mean, they're doing well beyond their revenue goals. And we're looking at what's going on there, and that's happy on that. But what's happening is they're like, well, I haven't had a lead come in besides one this week. Well, what happened to that one? Well, yeah, I mean, they bought something, but they only had one lead. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what was happening previously? Well, I was getting like 20 leads, in a situation. Well, how many of those turn into jobs? Maybe like 1 or 2. And what kind of jobs were those? Not the jobs that I wanted to do. And so what happens is you're focused on the wrong things. You're not focused on the end results. You're focusing on the pathway always to get there. And oftentimes, like when I hop on sales calls, one of my favorite things to do on sales calls is the very beginning of a sales call. It is a lot of discovery, right? And one of the coolest things is we're discovering together. And oftentimes when people come on the sales call, they have a solution, or maybe they have a problem. It is simply just a pain. But it's not their actual problem. We got to find the problem together. And that's one of my favorite things, like the actual problem finding aspect of it all. Because if you boil it down to the root of the situation is, hey, you're not getting in front of your ideal customer enough. Your ideal customer does not know you exist. And so you can talk, and you could maybe say, hey, I got an issue right now with hiring, but maybe the real issue is you're not niched down. And you're not attracting people who are in this space or looking for these type of jobs. So if we do that, because if we keep trying to solve the hiring problem by just throwing more people at it, it's an ongoing, always losing battle. So I don't know. It's just, I think it's super important for people to recognize you have to prepare yourself and equip yourself for your current situation, and most importantly, for your future situation as well. If you're going to be a $5 million business owner, $10 million business owner, understand that your thought process and thinking right now won't be the thought process thinking that you got to have to get there. And once you are there, once you are in a situation where you're in this limbo, this growth stage where you're at $5 million this year and last year you were at $800,000, what happens is just recognize the fact that sometimes certain parts of your mind, certain parts of your activity level, certain parts of your team have not gotten there mentally and physically yet to the $5 million mark. So you have to be thinking of yourself in that way as well. So
yeah, it's a bit of an imposter syndrome. Hey, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe this is happening to us. Like it's when somebody is not doing well and they land one big job and they just, well, this is never going to happen again. So I might as well keep all this money because I can never replicate this ever again. And that's totally normal because it's the idea that you're going.
I shouldn't be
somewhere,
here.
Yeah, you're going somewhere new, and unfortunately, the gut reaction is, damn, this is never going to happen again. I might as well stack all this. I might as well put it all into crypto or something like that. Versus like, you clearly did something to get there. Like, I think like where we are like revenue wise this year, like we're way behind where I want to be and where I thought we should be and things like that. But if I mean, I looked at my business plan because I did one, when like 3 months in, and I mean, according to the business plan, we're like 5 times ahead of where we were supposed to be. So now that I'm in it, I mean, this is like, I look at the whole Navy thing as like a failure. And I look at everybody around me when I was in it, and I'm like, man, those guys are like, I'm just a piece of shit. I'm worthless. Like, who am I? But I also have to recognize that, like, that was not like a low caliber of people. That was not the general population. These are people that also trained their whole life for the exact same thing. And I was like one of the slowest people at a, like, just barely a sub 9-minute mile, a mile and a half, which is like 6-minute miles, which probably, 1% of the world can run a 6-minute mile? Like, but in that place, I was like the bottom 1%. So a lot of it's just the circumstance and the environment that I'm in, that once you get there, it doesn't feel like you deserve it. And and if you slip back, it feels more like you're missing out on like an A versus like, holy shit, I can't believe I got an A minus. Because at the beginning of the semester, if I said, hey, you're going to get an A minus, you would take that all day. But once you were set up at a place to get an A, then you slip back. Now it feels like it's a failure. And unfortunately, what the comfort zone for a lot of us entrepreneurs are, and let me know if you guys can attest to this, is when you do feel like you are, quote unquote, out kicking your coverage, we love to do little things that will now sabotage us and put us back in that comfort zone. So instead of...
Give me an example.
So Cobus, one of our clients, we had this exact discussion like a year and a half ago, and we talked about when he's out ahead and he's crushing it, some of the things that he likes to do was he would go to the job site and with a broom and clean up and like sweep. And I'm like, Cobus, what would you pay somebody to go sweep? Well, like $12 an hour. I'm like, okay, that's the equivalent of $24,000. Do you want to make 24 grand a year? Well, no. I'm like, okay, well then when you're at this level, stop feeling like you should be the person to go sweep the floors, because in the 2 hours it takes you to drive there, sweep the floors and drive back, that was 2 hours of like, and if you have a team, the strategy part, the human part, that's actually the hardest part of all this. If you look at every book on like how to run a successful business, they don't lead off with like, well, you got to look at your numbers and do this stuff. That's all important, but it's all leadership stuff. And the leadership stuff is hard. But what's easier than having to make tough decisions and think outside the box for your team? To go sweep floors that you've done for forever. So it's then a self-fulfilling prophecy where instead of keeping the ball rolling forward,
You stay busy doing the things that
you're staying busy doing the things that you shouldn't be doing. And I'm not saying every so often you got to jump back in. I mean, I was helping out with blog stuff today because like it needs to get done and things like that. So I'm not saying that you can't ever do it, but it's, if I feel like, holy shit, like as I'm leveling up, my actions need to continue the same, which is why I'm now like, okay, what are those things? Like, what are the partnerships? Like, who do I want to, like, I have to like create a target of 20 people that I would love to connect with. Perfect. Well, 5 years ago, I was going to do that. 5 years ago, I had to build the actual website. So it's just as I've grown myself, and I'm trying to do it with it, instead of like preaching at you, I'm trying to say like what I've done and how I've thought about it. But I mean, I've spent a lot of money on mindset and coaching and, trying to like I called Audrey today, like there's a mastermind group that I'm in, but I want to go to the actual retreat because when you go down there in a couple months, like you can meet up. Like it's literally Kevin Harrington, one of the first sharks in Shark Tank. Damon John is down there. Jesse Itzler is down there. Like
give some FUBU.
Yeah. Well, so it's all these people that I'm like, fuck it. Like I could either sit back and just watch them on TV, or I could fly down there and I could go actually meet them and sit at the table with them and like, either pick their brain or, I mean, they're business people. If I have a business that I'm like, hey, I'm doing this, this, and this, I need an investment. Well, I've already made the connection. And maybe I don't want to do it today, but maybe in a year I can go, hey, we met at that one dinner. You remember that? Yeah, I do remember that. Perfect. Let's talk. So at least it's like I'm trying to put my energy and resources and time and stuff like that into the things that I know it may not pay dividends today. It's like SEO. It's like how to get found in Google. If I write a blog or if I do something for SEO today, is it going to make me $1 million tomorrow? No, but it's going to continuously build the brand. It's I can either have pizza today, or I can realize, hey, I'm on a diet. I'm trying to get in sick shape this summer. And instead of pizza, I'm going to have that salad because I know that instant gratification, it'll be great right now, but I'm going to kick myself tomorrow morning when I wake up and I'm at the gym and I feel like shit. So I'm trying to focus on the things, especially with all this stuff. And again, it's unfortunate that most of the time that somebody loses weight, it's when they have like a heart attack. Like, hey, you had a heart attack. You're fat as shit. You should probably lose weight. And you're like, oh, you know what I never thought about doing? Lose weight. So it kind of sucks that it typically has some sort of negative circumstantial situation, like some sort of quote unquote rock bottom that happens before humans change. Most of the time people come to us. It's not, hey, I'm doing really well. I would love to double down. It's, hey, I was doing well and now stuff is starting to suck and I need help now. And it's like, look, man, you're about to have a heart attack and now you're asking me to help you lose 50 pounds in 2 weeks. What happened, 40 pounds ago when you said, hey, I'm up 10 pounds. I don't really like this. We should talk. Well, because the pain wasn't great enough until it smacks us in the face and it's game on. So, but we're all human. I'm looking through it. I'm going, okay, what are the things that if God forbid something happens, I'm going to do? Well, we should quadruple down on the brand. Well, why was I not doing that 6 months ago? Because it wasn't staring me in the face going, if you don't do this, you're fucked. So it sucks that we're in this position, but that's also human nature. But I realize that if I now double down and triple down, it will pay dividends down the line, compounding dividends. So I'm at ease with it. I'm cool with it. But my biggest thing, kind of leading it all back to how to set your business up for success during any economy. And it's unfortunate that we have to have a potential downturn in the economy to do anything. It really comes down to, doubling down on the things that are going to generate revenue, which is the sales, which is the marketing, which is the branding. And then
You didn't even say this, man, but like, excuse my language, but fucking be profitable too. Like, this is like, if I asked a question the other day in one of the Goat Gang groups, and I said, is the gas prices finally enough for you to start to prioritize pre-qualification? Like, is this couple of extra dollars per gallon of gas going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back for you to say, hey, it makes sense for me to actually pre-qualify? And like, is this, potential mini downturn going to be the thing that you need to do to say, look, I need to stop fucking losing money on jobs. Not only that, I need to start actually being profitable. I need to stop saying, hey, I'm okay with doing 30%, gross profit on a job. Like, no, that does not make sense for me. I need to start doing things that are going to allow for me to, have way more ability, way more profitability in my company. Because if you're not being profitable, you don't have as much rope to play this game. And so, yes, you need to double down on marketing. You need to double down on sales. You need to double down on doing the right things for your business. You also got to make sure that you are being profitable in this game.
Yeah, this is nothing new that anybody doesn't know.
Yeah, it's eat right and freaking work out.
Yeah, we all know what it takes to lose weight. We all know, you can research what Mark Cuban does in the morning to get his mind right, like mindset wise, but that's not what it is. It just comes down to the execution of it. So that's all I got to say on this topic. Straight up, like, you guys, like, the biggest thing, because I've been watching a bunch of webinars, because I'm getting back into like education mode, which I love, of like, learning new things. And one of the things that she said on the call was essentially, look, if you are afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody else is not. And that person is going to take your prospect, your partnership, your sponsor, your whatever it is. So that's something that I'm now like, screw it. I'm good. If I call somebody up, they're not going to get mad at me. They're not going to cuss at me. They're not going to be frustrated with me. And that's the same thing with you guys. Like, you guys all have cool businesses. Like, you do cool stuff, impactful stuff. Like, people want to meet you. People want to know what you're all about. Like, it's fun. Like, it's sometimes I still get nervous walking into like a massive networking event, but I realize once I start talking to somebody, I'm good because I can talk business. Like, I'm okay with that. And how did I become okay with that? I obsessed over it and I practiced talking to them, but I realized like nobody really cares. And that's the same thing with you guys. Like, at the end of the day, you guys do really cool freaking stuff. Meet people, have fun with this stuff, and just recognize that no matter what happens, you'll be fine. Your family's going to love you. You're going to wake up and your wife or your husband and your kids are still going to look up to you and things like that. So you're good. Stay the course, but double down on the stuff that is going to generate the revenue, because if something does happen, at least you know you're just consistently trying to swing and just trying to keep getting at bats and at bats and at bats, because it's not really who you know, it's who knows you. We good?
Love it.
All right, everybody, get out there. Do something that's outside your comfort zone. Find that one person. I talked to Ed Day, one of our clients in Wealth Builder, and it was like a few weeks ago, man, he was in a tough spot. And then he landed like the biggest job he's ever landed at like 50% gross profit margin. And I sent him a voice memo on Friday. I said, Ed, look, man, that's awesome. The biggest thing I can say now, because I asked him, I said, how are you going to double down this momentum? He said, well, now I'm going to really start to work on those relationships and the posting. And I said, perfect. The one piece of advice I can give you, because I deal with this myself, is if I let time pass and I get halfway through the project, because I'm like, well, maybe once I get all this stuff set up, then I'll start to do the relationships. Then I'll start to do the social media. I was like, whatever pathway I start on, that's how I'm going to continue and how I'm going to finish. So my biggest thing for you, man, is if you really want to do this stuff, get on it now. Not once you find the perfect time in the project to do it. It's like if you want to lose weight, can't wait to start losing weight next month. It's like if you really want to lose the weight and you're actually going to lose the weight, just do it now.
Yep, 100%.
So, all right, everybody, have an awesome week. Let me know your takeaways from this, if you enjoyed this conversation or not. This was a little bit more of a different spin. Usually you and Greg talk about just like really boring stuff, so I wanted to bring something impactful to this conversation. So, cool.